Welcome back on Handbook. Today I want to propose you a video about
the unboxing review about the White Dwarf issue 456 released by the Game Social for the month of September. I want to remind you that there are not anymore the months written here, but I'll bring you the months that are referring about. And the image that we can see in the cover of this White Dwarf is the one that we have yet seen, because it's the one that it's from the Edge of Silence. That is the booklet that it was inside the set box of Indomitus. So this is the same image as you can see, and I like a lot such image, and sincerely I prefer to the alternative cover that we'll see later. Anyway, this is a really interesting White Dwarf with a lot of interesting contents, but we'll go to see them now. Here we can find the theme of the White Dwarf. It is the alternative cover that we'll see better later anyway, but it's quite interesting. And in some way we can see the alternative cover that we'll see better later, but here we can see the images where the alternative cover has been extracted from. So we can find the source of such image. That I think it's quite nice, because it's really quite beautiful as imagine the original one. Sincerely I don't like the extract itself, but the image is really wonderful. Here we can find the contents that are inside. Here the comparison about the original image and the alternative cover. They are anyway beautiful artworks, but I prefer this one. And here a note that we see and I like a lot, but there are some problems about. So we can flip, we can find about the mailing list from the readers to the White Dwarf team, and here we can find a lot of inspiration. For example, think about this scheme of color. It's not conventional about the spatters and so on, the night hounds, but it's quite amazing one. I really love such a scheme of color, really quite amazing. Also this combination of purple, it's wonderful. There are a lot of interesting parts that we can have as a referring as an idea. For example, this little diorama can be really quite amazing. We can flip, we can find also other, for example, this type of base for this Lambo model. There are really a lot of things that we can think about using, for example, such basing that it's quite simple but emphasize these models, so can be interesting that way. Here about the, I can say, a little army realized by a reader, that can be not bad at all. And here we can find instead Phil Kelly that talks how to create your maps, your geography to play with, your world. And I think that it's a really interesting article to read, because it can allow you to understand how you can characterize the way that you want, or better, the region, the environment that you want to play with. I think that can be quite amazing one as a way. Here we can start with the 140k, and we can find this that it's the set box of Indomitus, because these are the models that were inside the set box itself. And we can find an analysis about the models that are inside, so why they has been created, so the sculpture, the realization and so on, the different ways to realize the models, their meaning and so on. So there are a lot of information that I think can be really quite interesting one, and maybe you can find some idea about some details or so on that you can play for your own miniatures. And there are a lot of information. For example, you can study some details. For example, think about this little droplet of liquid that usually maybe you'll not find about, but there is study these ones, because it can be quite interesting and can give you inspiration about how to play and so on your models. And here we have about to paint the Zerkan dynasty, and I think that about painting can be really quite interesting, moreover about this chaos weapon, because it can be quite interesting to realize in such a way, because it's not bad at all. And then we can find here that there is another bit of, I can say, background, but in this case it's Robin Crudes that is talking about the rules, how they developed the rules for the miniatures on in the wild see these artworks because they are beautiful, and believe me, I prefer the artwork to the text itself, but it's interesting. Simply, I don't find that they, I can say, respect what they said in the text itself, but anyway, it's not bad. And here we can find a battle report that it's the Age of Silence. I want to remember you again with such models that you have seen here. So you have yet a referring, but here it's a battle report, and you can see these armies working. So I think that can be quite interesting to understand how it works, the new edition. Here we have the part about the incursion and so on, so the mission that we go to play. And so I think that can be quite interesting to play with, because for the ones that want to understand better how it works, the new edition can be a way to understand how it is done. And for the ones that want to know how it works, I mean how to correct some ways or how it's intended to work, some things can be also a reference. So I suggest you to make a site about this, because it can be quite interesting one. And then we can move on and see this, because if we have seen about how the game about the Warhammer 40k has been realized, here we have about the background, so the imaging in the background that it's related about such one. And I think that can be quite amazing as a thing to read, because this is quite full of things that has the idea that has behind the development of the background itself. Here we have a fiction that it's about Necron against Space Marines. It's in part related about the Age of Silence, but not completely. And here we have a lot of things that improve what we have seen in the previous White Dwarf, and it's the talking about the Paria Nexus. So we can find a lot of information. Here I suggest you, if you are interested about the background of Warhammer 40k, to take your time and read carefully, because there are a lot of information. And here we can find how it has been created a real battle about the game of Warhammer 40k for playing these armies. So we can find a table that has been created, and it's quite amazing one. And we can find also the different steps that has been done to create such table at the end. So we can have a lot of interesting ways to understand how it has been the project and so on. I think that it can be quite interesting for the ones that want to improve also the basis for your own models, but also the tables where you are going to play with, because it's nice also that one. And here we have something special, because it's the index starter with the Silver Templars, that it's a new chapter based on Primaris Space Marine that has been realized, a new one to promote. It's a successor of the Ultramarines, and it's really full of background, so it's really quite interesting to read, because it's a development. So wow, really quite amazing to, I can say, have a way to understand how it's done, a chapter at the end, because you can find a lot of information about. And then we have also the rules to play, but there are two problems. First, has not been released yet the new codex of the Space Marine. So these are new rules. You have the relics or lore traits, stratagems, but there is one problem. It refers to the previous one or to the new one, because when there will be the releasing about the new one, this one will be outdated, so useless. Moreover, there is a fact about Age of Sigmar, but it applies, I think, also about Warhammer 40k, that the publishing on the White Dwarf about such things are useless, because they are not on the books or on the facts. So see about this. Anyway, it's interesting. It's a way to understand how to create your own chapter, so it's good. And I think that it will apply also to the new edition anyway. But anyway, there can be such problems eventually. We'll see if the Games Workshop will improve and maybe will make a FAQ or so on to say that no, you can use it, not worry. Here we have the part about painting, so it's quite interesting because it makes you see how to paint the silver warriors here. So it's a way to understand how can be painted the different units and so on. Here also a reader that has done its army based on this chapter, so it can be also interesting, this one. And then we can move a bit on Warhammer Age of Sigmar. And here we can find this author that it's Louis Adolan, that talks about how to improve your usage of, I can say, different tricks on the battlefield. So using some signs and so on for the minion to remember some rules. This one about the dice, sincerely, forget about this because I don't find it okay. But anyway, it can be interesting. So there are little tricks that I think that can be interesting. Obviously, remember that for some of them you have to have the collaboration of your opponent. Otherwise, if it doesn't agree, it's not okay to do them. Here we have about Warcry with new rules. In this case, first new background with, for example, this story that it's quite interesting to read and wow, really interesting. And here the new rules literally, because we have the units and so on, the updating. There are a lot of things that for the ones that play Warcry, I think that it's quite useful. And then we have the tale of 4 warlords that goes on. So we have the description about 2 armies and so on that goes together. So I think that it's really quite interesting. Obviously there is also a little of battle. Anyway, there is something that about these models is useful, and it's that you can use such ones as referring for your own miniatures. So for example, the bases, you can have suggestions about to paint and so on. So I think that can be quite useful anyway. Then we had this, that it's about how to make photographs for your own models. Sincerely, this is not new, because some months ago they done the same, so they published a way to make such photos, and they can be quite interesting. So not worry about this, because this is a really interesting article to read about, and there are a lot of interesting things that you can read. For example, how to improve the way to have your shots and so on. So I think that it's really good. Then we have about Blitzkrieg with the glory points, so an article about how to play with. I think that can be interesting, even if I don't remember, but there is a new edition about Warhammer Underworld that has to be released quite soon. Then we had this, that it's Warhammer Crime, and it's a new type of, I can say, writing available from the Black Library. I think that for the ones that like such style, can be really quite interesting, and having an, I can say, an extract, way to understand how there is an example about how it's written, can be interesting to have a new way to read Warhammer 40k, Age of Sigmar and so on books, so can be quite interesting. And then we continue with The Faith on Fire, and this is always interesting, because if you have all the White Dwarfs related about such publication, you can have all the book about. Obviously it's up to you, but having this as a way to understand how they are written, the histories, the background for the stories that you can like about Warhammer 40k, Age of Sigmar and so on. So I think that it's an example that it's worth to read, because it's quite nice, so give it a try. And it's really quite interesting one. Then we have some about the inside the studio, and here we can find something that there will be released in the next months. For example, this, it's a model that has been just released available, so you can order this, not bad at all. Here it's not a model, it's simply one of the translators of German White Dwarf. It's nice also to see such things. He's really a young hobbyist, I can think. And then we can find something that it's about what there will be released about the next month, so we find something about the Seraphon, and I'm quite interested about this. Here we can find the alternative core that we have about the White Dwarf. It's not bad, but as I said, I prefer the actual one. And then we had this, and it's about trolls, and this let me a bit perplexed, because sincerely the next month there should be the releasing about the new codex of Space Marine, new supplements about the Space Marine, the codex of the Death Card. So there are a lot of things that will go to be released about Warhammer 40k. So I don't understand why the main theme should be, because usually there is the main theme for in this web page, should be about Age of Sigmar, but moreover about the trolls. So this I don't understand completely. Anyway, I can say that this White Dwarf is quite amazing. Really a lot of background, a lot of interesting things to read. There is quite a lot, not mainly about game and so on, but mainly about how to paint, to modify, moreover about the background. So you can really use this as a way to have suggestions, ideas, and focus on the backgrounds that you like, because there is for Warcry, and there is for a bit of Age of Sigmar, but not much, but for Warcry and Warhammer 40k. So there is quite a lot, and it's really quite interesting to read about. Anyway, from Dynamod it's everything. I invite you to put a like on this video, to subscribe to the channel, to ring the bell, and to comment this video if you are interested in something about this video, or you want to suggest me some arguments for other videos. I hope to see you again. To the next time.